And what we're going to do is we're going to look at making a logo. And you guys know I use a little automation, I use a little manual punch, but we're going to deal with some lettering issues. And if you look down on my building block bar at the bottom here, you're going to see some 5mm letters and some 5mm running stitch letters. And I'm going to put these in a link to you. It's going to be a link to download an exe file, and we're going to install these onto your IDS system, after the webinar, once I get these posted, okay? So watch for the newsletter. But I do want to show you something really quick on the building blocks. First, most of you are probably wondering where in the world that is, because your screen's looking like this. So to get to your building blocks, we're going to go to View, Toolbar, and then come down here and click on the building block tool, toolbar listing. Once you click on that, it shows up down here. And most of these you're probably not going to use, like these borders. You're not going to use these too often. But these running stitch letters you definitely would use. And if you note, there's this little thing that says My Blocks. And that's where you can save your own building blocks. Like, for example, if you, have come out to the training in St. Louis, I told you if you have worked on some pre-digitized letters to save those, in this location so you can pull them up later. But in the meantime, you guys don't have these, so I'm going to send you the link to install them after the webinar. We're going to take a look at how to gauge the size of a design based on the image, because a lot of times what I get is I'll get a picture from one of you guys saying this isn't stitching right, and the picture's like really small, and then I get the design and the design is really small because when the picture came in, it came in at a very small size. So we're going to take a look at that. So we're going to go and insert an image. We're going to go to Create and Insert Image, and I'm going to pick this image right here, and it looks like it's kind of big enough. It's coming in as scanned because it's a JPEG, so I'm going to say template. And what's going to happen is, it says, oh, that's a pretty good size image, right? Well, let's say okay. But when I really look at this, let me kind of zoom that up a little bit. What I end up doing a lot is coming into here and then trying to digitize it at this size without realizing that this is really too small. So the way to tell is if you look up here, see my my mouse moving, go up and find the ruler. When you click on the ruler, you can press and hold your left mouse button and drag across, and you can see, that's going to be really small. Now, this part may work out okay, but, this part down here, that's going to be a little iffy. And these letters down here, well, they're probably going to be really small, right? You can actually measure them from the height, too. And, that's less than 5mm, right? So, that's how you can gauge a size. Now, what do you do when the image comes in like this or you get a really bad image? Well, let's go ahead and just move our mouse over to the corner. And if we hold the Shift key, then we can scale that out from the center. Okay, now, this should probably work, but I'm going to use one of these letters just to check. That's 5mm, and we don't usually want to go below 5mm, right? So let me go ahead and delete that. And let's make this just a little bit bigger. All right, so I get kind of a gauge. Use something that gives you a good gauge of whether or not that's going to work, and that should work. Your customer probably doesn't want their logo to be giant, especially this part, but I've got to deal with this part down here. So this part's quite large. I might scale it, but nonetheless, I'm able to work with this now. Now, if I look at this image, it's got kind of the white in here, and you might be tempted to leave that blank. Well, generally, unless it's going on a white t-shirt, you're going to want this white in here. But even if it's going on a white t-shirt, once I start making these areas, that's not going to show up quite how you think because of pull compensation and everything else. So we're going to take a look at how to deal with this. Those of you know, if you want to use some of the automation, if you've been in the webinars, you know that you can come right above your Go button and click on the magic wand. And when you click on that magic wand, you can come over here and click on the area. And you can see this area that's just outlined with the flashing lines. That's all that the program is seeing. But this tolerance box gets thrown up in the corner here, allows me to slide that color tolerance over until I get everything that I want the program to see. You can see like there's a little bit down here that's not doing well, so I might slide that a little bit more, until I get everything that I want in this. And you can see I still have a little bit of blue down here, and so I can kind of keep sliding this slider until I get something like this. Then I've gone too far and I just have to back it down just a little bit and get the most blue that I can get. Now I still may have some editing in here, but the bulk of the work is done. And here's what we have. Now I'm going to, it's selected, it's flashing, right? So I'm going to come up to my zoom selected and zoom in here and take a look at this section here. This is going to look good. That's looking pretty good. But down here, I might want to edit a little bit. So I'm going to go to View Outline. And then I'm going to go, and clean this up a little bit. So I'm just going to go into Edit mode. I might right-click and curve that, right-click on the middle of a line. I might actually right-click and delete that to get those curves. See what happens when I right-click and delete some of these extra points, how, those curves are coming in. They're a little easier to manage. Even this one with just 1 point. See, the curve is a little bit better. And, it's going to be the same thing down here. This I might want to look at a little bit, but I want this to be smooth. So, let's start deleting out some of the extra points in here so that we get a little bit smoother curving. Even if you delete all of them, you can come over here and take a look at what's going on, right? And try to pull that. If you don't like it, remember, just follow my mouse, come up to the undo, and get that back. And it's going to be the same thing here. I'm going to right-click here and delete that point to get the curving better. I might even try right-clicking in between those 2 points right here and curve a little bit as well. And, same thing down here. I'm going to delete some points, get a little bit better curve on this. And, I can even come up here and say smooth this and then back that down a little bit if I need to. But, I just want to clean up some of those little points on here. And same thing up in here. I might pull that down a little bit, delete that point. And if I don't like it, I can always, also left click and place a point to control that a little bit better, right? So I've got that cleaned up. Let's go ahead and, we could generate here, or we don't have to generate after every turn. We can come down here and say, well, I want to put that to complex fill and change that right away. And, that direction's going to be on the bias, so I might want to change that direction. We can see if we think this is good, or, just kind of play with that wand a little bit until you get it in the direction that you want it to go. All right, so there's our first section. Now let's take a look at making the second section. Same thing, I'm going to come up here, and once I set this, I generally don't have to adjust. I might adjust a little bit, but my wand should still be active, so I'm going to come down here and get all of these. And we'll clean it up in the same way, right? We're going to clean up all of these pieces. Just go into View Outline. You can take a look at what's going on here. Go into Edit mode. And, here's this point right here on this one. I'm just going to pull that over a little bit, maybe pull these down. And even if I pull them down like this and then grab that line and curve it, I can just come in here and delete those extra points and, fix that up like that. Now, honestly, with these 4 pieces, they're all the same. So once I get one of them done the way I want, why would I want to edit the rest of these, right? I'm going to just clean this one up really well and get it to be what I want. And then I'm going to come over here and right-click on this one, hold my Control key, and right-click on these other 2 and press and hold that Control key and press Delete. So I've deleted all of those now, and I'm going to come back over to this one. And, I'm going to left-click on my image a little bit. Let me get out of this for a second, because I want you to be able to see a little bit better and fade that out, okay? So let's go ahead and hit Generate. So there's my finger that is kind of done very nicely, right? So I'm just going to right-click on it, copy, paste, just drag it into place. paste, just drag that one into place because they're all exactly the same, right? If you want, you can nudge it a little bit to make a little space, but these are all pretty much the same. Just use the arrow keys on your keyboard to move it around, and then paste that last one in, and there you go. Now, let me nudge him around just a little bit. Okay, so now I've got some issues here that I'm going to have to deal with on an outline. So let's zoom out a little bit, and let's go ahead and just left click off to the side and generate. So now, we've got this all done, and we need to select these. Well, what ends up happening is, you'll come over here and you'll try to select it, and it's like, oh geez, that moved. Just undo. And then we're going to lock this image so we can handle the pieces in the design without moving this. Go up to Edit, and then down at the very bottom it says Lock Image. So now this won't move, and I can come over here and just left click and drag around this, and I can come down and group these pieces together so that I know that if they get moved, they're all moving together. All right, so I've got my blue and I've got this pink, and now I want to deal with this outline. And dealing with this outline is, going to be a little tricky because I've got the blue and then I've got this pink, and, well, the blue is going first. It would be logical to do X, Y, and Z on this outline, but, I'm going to have to edit a little bit. So maybe the easiest way to do this is, to start with the blue. So select your blue, go up to Stitch, and create an outline from area edges. And, we're going to leave it as a satin. I'm going to make it 4. Not going to worry about the offset. Outside border is fine because there's no openings here. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm going to come down on my color chip immediately and click on white. And there we go. Now, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, wow, maybe that was a little bit too wide. Well, I don't have to delete this. I just go into my property settings, and to get to my property settings, I can either press the space bar or come up to this icon and say, okay, there's my satin setting. Here's my line setting. I want to click on the line setting and maybe change this to 2 or 2.5. Let's go ahead and apply it and see what it looks like. Okay, so 2.5 is a little bit better, but I've got some problems down here. So let's say OK, and let's deal with our problems. We've got multiple problems, and one of them is that these fingers are also going to be outlined, so this is kind of a duplicate outline. Then I've got this as well, and then I've got these pointy, spiky things here, right? Well, let's fix this up. We're going to go into View Outline, and this is a line. No matter what it looks like, it is nothing more than a line. So we're going to treat it like a line, and we're going to fix some things. So the first thing we're going to do is go to Outline, Divide with a Line. And then I'm just going to come down here and left click and drag across that point there. Come over here, left click and drag across that point there. Left click and drag across that point there. And the same thing over here. I don't need any of this around the pink. So I just left click, drag across, place another left click, and then I press Enter and Escape. And the only way I'm really going to find these lines is if I go ahead and generate. Let's see what came up. Sometimes these don't divide quite how I want. So let me go ahead and zoom out. And just for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and change this so that you can see it a little bit better on the screen. Okay, so here's my first piece. I just left click on it in the film strip, hold the Control key, and press Delete. Okay, here are those finger sections. Same thing, click on it in the film strip, make sure I know what I'm deleting, and press Control and Delete. Now I'm left with this and these pieces here. And these pieces, this piece is fine, but these pieces here, or this piece here I should say, needs some help. So let's left click on that and zoom selected. Then we're going to go back into View Outline, and we're going to go to edit mode. And then I'm just going to left click right below that and pull this up a little bit like this. And if needed, I will just adjust that outline a little bit. But see what I'm doing? I'm making like a little step here. And same thing over here. I'm just going to left click, pull that up a little bit, and I can right click and bring that back down. Left click. And if you're a little bit low, don't worry. Just left click off to the side and then left click where you want it to be. Bring that up. And right click and drag that down. Now let's go ahead and generate. And you can see that looks a lot better than what we had. Now let's work on these pink pieces. You know, this piece and then these pieces over here. You know, I might edit this piece if needed, but we'll take a look. So to get all of these pink pieces, I just left click on the pink color chip right next to your film strip. Here's my mouse. Left click on that pink color chip. Accessories. Stitch. Create an outline from area, edges, satin border, and we had to change this to 2.5, remember? Then we're just going to say OK. Generate. And I want this to be yellow, so here's my yellow, and then here's all of these pink pieces now. And I'm just going to come between this yellow and this first pink piece and remove the rainbow. Just click on it to turn that rainbow off. And there we have our fingers. Now, I've got some overlapping in here. And we're going to zoom in and kind of take a look at how bad is this overlapping. You know, maybe it's bad enough that I need to make that not quite as thick. So I can, you know, come down and just select these fingers, go into my settings, go to line, and maybe we'll change those to 2.0. Let's click apply. And, you know, that's looking a little bit better. We've got a little bit of overlap, but you can sit here and say, well, you know, 1.75. Apply it. You know, is that looking better? Okay, but now we've got a couple of problems in here. There's some gapping, right? So, you know, you're going to have to kind of decide. 2.0 probably is your best setting, but I still have to edit in here. And I'm going to go out of 3D once I say OK, and we'll take a look at what's going on. You know, there's some overlapping, and if I still want these to be as thick as they need to be, you know, I can use another setting that's in the program. I'm just going to have to edit the blue, and it's not going to be that big of a deal, okay? So I've decided that these, well, they're still not quite doing what I want, so with these selected, I press Control-Delete. And then I just come in here, and, you know, you can see that these are touching. So I might have some issues, so, you know, let's try something else. Let's hold the Control key and right-click on each one of these, and let's go up to our stitch, create an outline from area, edges, satin border, and we're going to go ahead and try the 2. But I'm going to offset this minus 0.75 because I want to move these in a little bit. And I just say OK, and I can come over here and right click on the color chip and hit go. Alright, so those are looking better, but I've got a little editing to do. Not a big deal. You know, we know that these yellow pieces are lines. I have a little editing to do over here too, so we're going to take care of that. And, you know, all in all, like I might want to edit a little bit on this as well. So let's start with the basics. Here's this piece right here. I select this line from the film strip because it's much easier to do from the film strip. View outline, edit mode, and I'm just going to come over to these nodes on the end and pull this down. Same thing here. You know, we split that, so if you run into a little bit of a problem, you might have to delete some nodes, but we'll go ahead and pull that down. You can see how I've pulled those lines, right? So now those are hidden very well in there. Same thing with this line here. So let's go ahead and click on this section here, go to View Outline and Edit Mode, and I need to pull this so it comes up. And I might have to right-click and curve a little there. And the same thing, I need to pull this so it's going to tuck in under. So I'm just going to pull that like that. And now, you know, we've got a little bit smoother line here, right? Then I've got this, which, you know, that section needs maybe straightened up a little bit. So I'll left click on that and go into View Outline and Edit Node. And, you know, I might want to curve this just a tad. And remember, you can still delete some of these points to get nicer curves, right? But we wanted that to be a little bit smoother, and I might right click and smooth that as well and just move that node over a little. And what we're going to get is going to be a little bit cleaner look here. So now that's a little bit cleaner, right? That's looking good down here, but we know we're going to have some gaps. So let's right click on this piece, and I'm going to zoom the whole design at this point. And we're going to take a look at what we have to do here. Well, to me, it's pretty simple. You know, I'm just going to go to View Outline, and I'm going to use my Reshape tool. I have to reshape here a little bit, and I have to reshape around these fingers. So, Outline, Adjust with New Points. And we're going to start with this point to this point. And this is the section we're going to do. We're just going to bring it down so that it sits underneath or right on the edge here a little bit. And there's not going to be as much gapping. And I'm just right-clicking. I'm basically just recreating this section. And, you know, when I get to something like here, I have to left-click and left-click for straight segments. And even down here, I'm going to come over and left-click here and press Enter. And I want to show you what we've got now. Okay, so now, you know, this is not going to be gapping like it was. Oh, hold on. Let's see what we saved here. All right, so that section's not going to be gapping like it was. Well, I've got, you know, this section that I've edited, and that stayed. Let me zoom the whole design. And I've got this section here. So same thing, I'm going to right-click on this blue section. I'm going to come into View Outline, go to the Outline menu, and I'm going to adjust with new points. And where I want to adjust is going to be from here to here. And while it may be tempting to just adjust with a straight line down there, it won't work as well. So I need to select this line and just bring it down. You know, even if you start bringing it up to this and you're, you know, left click to place your points and right click to make curves, you know, that's okay. When you get to here, just left click, right click, left click, right click, you know, left click, right click to make the curve, left click, and then you're going to come down here and left click as evenly as you can and press Enter. So what I've got is, I might have to clean that section up a little bit, but I've got, you know, a whole lot less gapping. I might have to clean this up, and I'll zoom in and show you what I mean. Right here, or, you know, is your customer going to notice if these come all the way down? Probably not. So just come in here and go like this. Pull this down a little bit further. You know, where those sections are going to meet, so you have no gapping. Or when you make that, remember to do that, right? So, okay, quick fix on images like that. And you know what it didn't keep, I guess, is this line. Let's look. I'm going to right click off the side and hit go and make sure I generate everything. And since this line didn't adjust, we'll come click on this. I'm not sure why that one didn't adjust, but let's bring it down into here. And then just right click to adjust it to the curve, hit go, and the hands are all done. All right, so I'm going to stop for a second. I might have to adjust here a little bit because that seems to be pretty close to the edge. But, you know, you're going to get an eye for this. Oh, I guess it didn't save my adjustments there. But anyway, you know, to come in here and, you know, adjust with new points. Don't spend your time doing all these nodes here. Go to Outline, Adjust with New Points, and, you know, come over here and left click where you want to start, left click where you want to end, and pick the section you want to re-punch. And I'm just going to bring it down here and really just follow this track here, right? And I need to left click here because this is coming into a straight segment so that I don't have gapping. Now, with this being said, you know, I've got this outline that's now going to be sitting on top of things, right? So I might want to take a look at the outline and just adjust that a little bit, but it depends on, you know, how much you've got underneath things, right? And we don't have a whole lot of overlap, but, you know, click on your yellow color chip, go into your settings and say, well, okay, now let's go to the Satin tab. Maybe I can make my density 0.5 or even 0.6 to take out some of the density in that. You can see that looks fine. You know, so now we've got the hands. Now we have to deal with this. And this is the other question I get all the time about specialty lettering. You can see this lettering is a little different. This is no big deal. This one is. Well, okay. Use your magic wand. Come over here and click on this if you can't find the font. And remember, just adjust until you get what you want. And you might have to do some cleanup. You can do it that way, or you can come over here and use your Satin tools. And here's your first one, which is side to side. And here's the second one called side by side. When you look at letters, you have to think about what's going on. You know, these would be a little harder because they don't actually split apart. But you can go like this. Say, well, okay, let's change this from, you know, the blue to gray, because that's really what that is. We might as well do that now. And Satin side by side is this. I'm going to left click, right click for curves, and I'm coming around, and this is where it's going to get a little dicey right here. But I can left click here and press enter. And then come back over here and left click at the same, you know, area where I started. If I started at the top, start at the top. If I start at the curve, start at the curve. And I'm going to trace it that way and kind of try to match that up and press enter. Then I'm going to left click and hold my mouse button down and drag these lines telling this what direction I want this section to stitch in. Then I press enter. Now I've got that nice letter. Now I've got to match this up just as well, and we're still in this tool. So just start up here, and it is easier if you work in outline view, but we can fix this. So I'm going to just left click and draw one side, press enter, come up here and left click and draw the other side and press enter, and then same thing, left click and drag in the direction I want and press enter, and there is my D. Now if this weren't lined up, you know, just go into view outline and take a look. Are they lined up? They're looking pretty good. I might pull this one down just a tad, right? But so, you know how to make your own letters. You know, this E is a little bit better, you know, but that's going to be a lot easier than, you know, pulling my hair out, right? And, you know, and the O, you know, you can use this tool on the O as well. You know, side by side, left click, right click, right click. The E you might have to work with a little bit, but, you know, the O, I'm just going to right click around the inside. If I need to stop the curving, I can make more right clicks, or I can left click, right? And if you make a mistake, you backspace. And just come up real close. Then I'm going to come around the outside. I'm going to do the same thing. Whoops, I went around this way. You just have to make sure that you go around the same way. And I'm not doing this super neat, but I wanted to let you know if you can't find the font, make your own letters. And you can edit these, right? I'm just dragging my lines around, even on an O, pressing enter. You know, that's still pretty good. And I'm going to escape and go ahead and change the color. We're going to zoom in on this one. If I have to stop like I did here, you can see where my flashing outlines are. No biggie. Go into view outline. Go into your nodes. Clean this up. You know, like I would clean this up so it matched a little bit better. And, you know, you're going to be able to go like this, overlap this, and you're going to get that message. No big deal. Say yes. And just overlap those. Say yes, and then go. And there you go. I've got my O. I'm able to make my own lettering. You know, this is going to be a lot easier than trying to find the font and pull my hair out. Now, when we get down to this real small lettering like this, you're going to have to ask your customer, do you really want that? Because that's 5mm lettering. And that's where these building blocks are going to come in handy. First off, this has got to be running stitch. It's very thin. I would recommend that you ask the customer, you know, to leave that. But if they insist, you might have to make that a little bit bigger. And you can see it's, you know, I can come down here and I have upper and lower case, so I can just say, you know, to, you know, start pulling these, you know, lowercase. I'm not even going to worry about, that's the uppercase one, sorry. I'm not even going to worry about lining these up so much, you know. Oh, I keep grabbing the wrong one, sorry. I'm just going to get them on the screen and then I can line them up. The L is the lowercase. Okay, so I've got, oh, that's right. Hold on 1 second. Lock my image. Okay, so I've got these 3 little pieces right here. So I'm just going to pull them aside. And I'm going to align by their bottoms. If I had, you know, lowercase letters, I might have to align them a little bit different. And I think I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to left click off the side and just left click on each individual letter and start moving them into place. You know, I'm just using the arrow key on my keyboard because I've already aligned these. And you know, if you need to adjust them, just left click on the letter and nudge it over, right? And then when you're done, left click and drag around these and group them. Let me go back out to 101. Now, here is 2. Now, if I need to make them a little bit bigger, I just hold the shift key and say yes, because these letters are locked. And I would probably do that, make them a little bit bigger. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop right now. Do you guys have any questions? No questions? You guys are all good? Quiet group. Okay, watch your email. I have questions. Do you guys understand how to use that Satin side-by-side tool that I showed you about making your own letters? You guys are going to practice that? You move the question box over. Because the Satin side-to-side, people get lost on a little bit, but Satin side-by-side is this. You define one side and press enter. Then you define the second side and press enter. Then you tell it what direction you want those stitches to go in and press enter. All right, so you guys are good? No questions on how to do that. You're going to practice, and I'll send you links to the image. Give me a day. I've got to process the video, but practice making your own letters. Honestly, I get more questions on these specialty letters, right? Well, you know, the E might be a bit of a challenge, but maybe you make the E like this. You know, we're going to define a side, right? But remember, you've got other tools that you can use too. And if you end up with specialty lettering from one of your customers, you know, don't panic. Come over here and define it. And the E, you know, the E is actually going to be kind of a problem, but it's doable. Let me backspace out of that curve. Hold on. It's doable. You just have to be careful. Those lines can't cross each other, okay? See how those are not crossing, even if I have to edit a little bit. And, you know, I can angle that, and I might want to redo that one, but I can angle that stitching to get some length on skinnier areas. And there we go. So I might have to edit, you know, but, you know, that E's not looking too bad, and I got what I wanted. You know, I just go into View Outline, go to the nodes here, and clean this up a little bit, right? But, you know, all in all, that's not looking too terrible. Even if I bring these over and my outlines cross, I can say yes and go. All right, someone's asking where you guys get these little fonts. I'm going to put a link so you can install them into the program, okay? I'm just looking over the questions real quick. The measurements down here are referring to the whatever selected, like that stitch size, or if nothing selected, the whole file. Okay? The small letters I'm going to send to you in a link in your newsletter. Watch that for the next day or two. And when you get that newsletter, if you don't get it, look in your spam folder. The Resize tool, Lila, if you, let me go out to 101, right? If I left click on a piece, or if I select the whole design, right, like this, if I select the whole design and I have these open boxes, I need to group it. And when I click on the resize box, 4 inches is 100 millimeters about. Even if they're locked, just say yes, you know. But the problem with this one is, this logo in particular, nobody's going to want that 4-inch heart on their chest, right? But that's how the resize works. You know, it's easier sometimes to match things up using, you know, your controls here, right? Like a lot of times I'll make lettering and I will, you know, smash the lettering into the position it has to go in. All right, does that make sense? Sherry's asking about if I'll send instructions. The instructions are going to be really simple. You just close your IDS program down and make sure it's closed down, and then click on that exe after you download it, install them into the program. When you open, they should show up here automatically, okay? On the update, Lila, we'll send out an announcement when we have more information. I'm not sure what bottom numbers you mean, like, Lila, not sure what ones you mean, like on the resize. Bottom right down here, they mean different things at different times. Here's my stitch count. That position down here is, you know, kind of where my mouse goes, and, you know, usually you ignore that. There's my zoom percentage, and here's the stitch size of the item I have selected. So it's called a status bar, and you can see it changes size when I left click off to the side or right click and nothing's selected. All right, everybody, let me go ahead and shut down the video so it's not